Review for quiz number 2, which will be Tuesday, April 14. That is the next class, because we have again a second spring break. And it will be on determinants. 2.1, 2.2, but really the methods from 2.2. That's where we talk about the two different methods is row reduction and expansion using cofactors and mixing those two. So the cofactor, using cofactors, the original definition from 2.1, you only want to do if you have a row or column with a lot of zeros, preferably all but one zero, because that makes the size smaller. If you have only a few zeros, you have to calculate way too many different determinants. So you really then want to do row reduction. So let's look at this particular case here. And if you do row reduction, before I start, you're looking exactly for ones, because the ones make it so easy to make zeros everywhere else. In other words, the ones become the pivots that you use. Okay. Now you see that when I look for ones, my preference is to look for them in the first column. Technically, I don't need to, but let's just try to stick to that. So we see we have two ones here. This one, well, we have actually one only. We have the negative one. We could perhaps play with that, but there is a one, so no need to do that. But look at this row first. There are so many zeros here that I should really consider using this as a cofactor expansion. Okay, so if I do this, what this means, it means that I am going to expand here using, so this is using row number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, row 6. And then I have the 2, that comes with a positive sign, just one more time, right? You have plus, minus, plus, minus, plus, minus, plus, minus, plus, minus, plus. We know actually on the diagonal you all get pluses. Okay, I'm going to get rid of this now, for now, okay. So it is with a plus sign, and then what is left is we scratch out row and column, and I'll repeat it: 0, 4, 1, 3, 0, 1, 3, 1, 2, 0. There's a lot of copying here, and that's also, of course, a big risk is by making a mistake. Some of you made silly mistakes by making a 1 into a negative 1 or something like that, so be careful with that. Okay, I'm saying this because I will not punish you much for that, you know that, but it is just that you can run into really ugly numbers then. Okay, so here we are. We had already noticed this one here, and so this will become now my pivot. Okay, pivot, like where you pivot around, right? That's the meaning. And so I need to make inside this column 2 more zeros. In other words, what I want to do is I get a 0 here and a 0 there, and the row operations are row 3, this is row 3, right? I'm going to replace by row 3 minus 2 times row 1. If I do minus times this and I add it to that, I get 0. And that's the only type of, some of you were multiplying rows. That is absolutely a no-no. Or dividing rows. No, the only thing you can do is take a row and add a multiple of another row, like we do here. That's the main one. There, of course, there's also switching rows or multiplying a row with a number. A number, not a row with another row. Don't make that mistake, please, anymore. Okay, so the other operation to get rid of this guy, that is in row 5, that I just have to add row 2 to it. Oh, so yeah, I made a mistake, right? It's row 2 here. So this is row 2. I'm using row 2 here. Be careful. Okay. All right. So let's do this. What I'm left with is, again, a lot of copying, so I have to be careful. I'm going to go here. Nothing happens with the first row and the second row. They just keep being the same. And then this row, I'm going to add negative 2 times the previous row and add a 2. So minus, that's the 0 there. Minus 2 times 3, that's negative 6, plus 1, that's negative 5. I'm going to do these calculations here, but I hope everybody sees where they come from, right? Minus 2, that's minus 5. And then minus 21. But that's just a 0 here, so that doesn't contribute. Okay. Okay, and then the next row, again, nothing happens there because I'm not doing anything with it. And then finally, we are going to add row 2 to row 5, so we're going to add, these two rows are going to add it, and this becomes a new row 5, 0. 3 minus 2, that's 1, that's a 0, that's, oh, no, sorry, that's a 1 here. That's a 1, I'm looking at the wrong row. 2 and a 5, be very careful. Okay, so we have now our 1 here, that means I'm going to do an expansion now with along, sorry, not a row, along column 1. Right, this column, because I have only this 1 here, column 1. Okay, so I have this 1, but we have to think about signs. So plus, minus, there's actually a negative sign. So I'll put this here, the negative sign that comes from there, right? And then we have the cofactor that we obtain by scratching out the column and the row. Okay, so we're left with, and I copy here because otherwise things get way too messy. So minus 5, minus 2, minus 5, minus 21, 0, 2, negative 2, 2, 1, 1, 2, 5. Okay, from size 6 we were already to size 4, but that's still not an easy thing to do. And you see there's no good rows here anymore, or columns with a lot of zeros in. So I'm looking for pivots again, and as I said, I prefer to use the first column. This is the one that I find, and so with that I can make these two numbers, these two guys here, 0, right? And the row operations are row 1 will be replaced with row 1 minus 4 times row 4, and row 2 is row 1 plus 5 times row 2 plus 5 times row 4. Yeah, try to write this correctly. Okay, so what happens? The top row, so I'm going back here, is we're going to time this with negative 4, right? And then add it there. So we will have 0, negative 3, negative 4 plus 3 is negative 5, negative 20 plus 0, okay? And then the next one I want to do is times this with 5 and then add it to this row. So I get 0, 5 minus 2, that's 3, 10 minus 5 is 5, and 25 minus 21 is 20. 25 minus 21 is 4. Good. What else? I have 0, 2, negative 2, 2, and 1, 1, 2, 5. Nothing happens in these two guys. Great. So we have again our 1 here and in this column. So it's again column 1 that I'm using. Expansion. So this is now the cofactor expansion, right? What's the sign? Okay, let's double check always. Don't forget that, right? Plus, minus, it's again a negative sign. So that's the negative here. Then a 1. Okay, we had, oh, but guys, we had a 2. I keep forgetting to write a 2. That was important here. This 2 here. There was a factor 2 here. I should keeping track of my factors. So the 2 is minus 2, this 1 is nothing, and then what is left? Well, we scratch out and we see minus 3, minus 5, minus 20, 3, 5, 4, 2, negative 2. Okay, 3 by 3, getting better, but no zeros. That's not great. So no cofactor expansion, I'm not going to do that, and no ones. That's less. Now there are two options. I can try to make a 1 by, for instance, subtracting this from this row. That creates a 1. That is definitely something you can do and can consider, but I see a better solution, because if I can, I'll always try. If there's a row where I can factor out something, and namely this is the case, I can factor out a factor from out a row. I can also do that from out a column, and that, of course, I want to only do that without creating fractions. But here I definitely can do this. So I can factor out a 2 here, which I could have done all the way in the beginning, by the way. Notice that this row actually already was of that form, but I didn't see it yet or didn't want to pay attention to it, so I do it now. So the operation I'm doing, I write it here, is factor out 2 from row 3. Okay, so what if left? Minus 2, that's the thing that we have already. And then another 2, that's this 2 now that comes out, right? I'm going to divide everything by 2 here. And then I get minus 3, minus 5, minus 20, 3, 5, 4. And then you divide everything by 2 in this row, only in that row. And that's what I'm left. Ah, that's good, because now I have a pivot. I'm going to use that to do row operations to get zeros here and there. So the row operations I have in mind is row 1. Replace that in row 1 plus 3 times row 2, row 3, and row 2 is row 2 plus, no, minus 3 times row 3. Okie dokie. So that is equal to, we have minus 4 that I shouldn't forget. Okay, so the first one, now I multiply this with 3 and add up there, so I get 0. Minus 3 plus minus 5 is minus 8. 3 minus 20 is minus 17. The other guy, now I do negative 3 and multiply there, so that's 0, 9, negative 3, no, not 9, 8, right? Negative 3 times negative 1 is 3, plus 5 is 8, and then minus 3 times 4, that's 1. Minus 3 plus 4 is 1. Okay, and then I have 1 minus 1, 1. Great. Again, I do column 1 expansion now. This is the only guy that I need to look for. I'll write down here now. I double check the sign. You can guess perhaps already what it is. It's going to be a positive sign now, right? Yeah. So sometimes you can see it without. Okay, so we get negative 4, then times 1, which I don't write, scratch out, there's no sign, and then we have left is minus 8, minus 17, 8, 1. And now by a 2 by 2, you could still do other stuff, but 2 by 2, just use the formula. Minus 4, this product is minus 8, subtract from that this product, so that is 8 times minus 17, okay, and that is, let's see, it's minus 4 times minus 8, I like to factor out something, I factor out minus 8, there, that's 1 minus 17 then, right? Factor out minus 8, right? Okay, so that's negative 16 here, so it's negative 4 times negative 8 times negative 16, and that is whatever that is, minus 512, I think, right? I think so, yeah. Okay, so that's how it works. And so I will ask you, but instead of a 5 by 5, I'll do a 4 by 4, otherwise it takes a little bit too long. But so make sure that you know exactly choose the right, are you going to do expansion along a row or a column, or are you going to do row reduction? Row reduction, you really want ones, and don't work with anything else. Some of you try to do this, but that really makes it extremely ugly. Other option, the other thing is looking for where you can factor out something in a row or in a column, okay? All right,